All right, we now joined by the ANC NEC member who's also the minister in the presidency, Jeff Radebe. Thank you so much for your time, sir.
Pleasure, Clement, and all your viewers and listeners of Eyewitness News.
Yeah, I would like to start here, perhaps, Mr. Radebe. Let's start about your early days in the African National Congress. Having been with the party for so long, what are your reflections? How was it before, and how is it now for you?
Well, I've started the struggle when I was a teenager, but it came via the Black Consciousness movement when I wanted to become a medical doctor. So some of the students from the University of Natal Medical School used to come and teach us mathematics and introduce us into the Black Consciousness movement. And one of those students was Steve Biko, Keith Mukwape, Ralph Mkijima, just to mention but a few. But I was actually recruited into the ANC in 1976, where I was trained, used to go to Swaziland, operating a unit in Durban as well as here in Johannesburg. And then later, I had to go into exile, where I acted in many capacities, including being a radio journalist for Radio Freedom, a deputy chief representative in Tanzania, working in the International Relations Department in Lusaka under Comrade Josiah Jele, but also being trained militarily in Mkhonto Wesizwe in Angola, party school by the SACP in Moscow, and also further academic training by the ANC in Germany, where I obtained a master's degree. So that's my short background into the struggle. And of course, Robben Island in 1986, where I was head of the political education department, leading the 12-day hunger strike on Robben Island. And then the rest is history, from 1990 being the deputy chair under President Zuma, who was our chairperson. And when he became the Deputy Secretary General in 1991, I was then elected the chairperson of the ANC in Southern Natal, a position I held until 1994 when Mandela appointed me into cabinet. So I've been into the ANC for the past 40 or so years, working from the grassroots. No task is big or small for me. You just have to execute the mandate of liberating our people.
And looking at the African National Congress right now, I mean, you speak to a lot of ANC leaders and they'll tell you that the ANC is possibly facing its deepest crisis right now. What are your reflections of what the ANC is going through, and can it be saved?
Well, definitely, I think it's common cause that there are many challenges not only affecting the ANC, the alliance, but the country as a whole. You can even see the state of our alliance. The statements that are made by alliance partners is a reflection of what is happening in the organization. I always tell people that contradictions, in fact, are the source of development. With all these challenges, we need to realize that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. We just need to close ranks and ensure that what the ANC stands for, namely creating the better life for our people, we should not lose focus of that basic thing that we're all about since we were founded in 1912 as a parliament of the South African people.
Who is to blame for all this crisis that the ANC is going through?
Well, I don't think it's time to apportion blame. What is important is to find solutions, is to start a program that is unfolding in South Africa to ensure that the ANC must restore its confidence amongst the people of South Africa so that we can be working together with our people to resolve their challenges, which is unemployment, poverty, and inequality. So the ANC as that vehicle of national liberation is still very important, especially now when we're now embarking upon the second phase of our transition to a national democratic society, where we need to ensure that our people are economically emancipated from the ravages of unemployment, poverty, and inequality.
How do you propose, I mean, many of the leaders will say this is the time for the ANC to be renewed, and perhaps this upcoming elective conference is going to provide that renewal, and the integrity of the party is somehow going to change. What will it cost for the party to get to a point where it wins back some of its members that have perhaps decided to stop even voting or believing in the ideals of the organization? What will cost the party to change its integrity and be that strong organization that it was known for?
I think we need to listen to the branches. The branches and structures of organization are saying it very loudly that away with factionalism within the organization. the issues of divisions within the organization. We need to close ranks so that what binds us together is what is very important. At the NGC in 2015, the structures of the organization were very clear about some of the challenges that afflict the organization, some of which have indicated the issues of factionalism, the bulk buying of members, and all these things that are besetting the organization. And then recently at the National Policy Conference, they were very clear and unequivocal that we need to leave no stone unturned in order to ensure that the organization is positioned in that level of ensuring that the people must have confidence in it.
I suppose another challenge that the ANC has right now is one that includes the entire body of the alliance. You've got now COSATU and the SACP, even in fact the SACP going as far as threatening to come out of the ANC-led alliance. And I know that you still sit on the SACP Central Executive Committee. What are your reflections on that? Was it a wise decision to make, to decide to contest elections on its own, the future elections that is?
Well, I think the Congress was very clear. It didn't say that the SACP is leaving the alliance, but there are challenges within the alliance structures of the organization, and there's also still going to be a lot of consultations that are going to be taking place within the SACP itself, with the ANC, as well as COSATU and other alliance partners such as SANCO. So it's still early days to conclude that the SACP will going alone in terms of the elections. In fact, it's actually not the first resolution of the SACP. It has been talking about these matters for quite some time. So it is early days to conclude conclusively that this is going to be happening. What is important, as far as I'm concerned, is a united front of all alliance partners so that we can be able even to bring in the whole democratic movement into the fold of the alliance so that we can be able together to champion the cause of our people to create that better life for all.
You still think there's a hope for this ANC
Definitely,
alliance?
I have confidence in the structures of the organization that we're going to be bouncing back as this organization resolute in our determination to do what is best for the people of South Africa.
I want us to perhaps get to, and we'll talk about some of the things that you've done in government, but I want to hear from you. There are several branches that have come out and they've endorsed you and they're asking you to serve as the ANC president. So they are showing their intention to nominate you for the position of ANC president. You have responded and you said you're ready to serve.
Yes, definitely. I'm very unequivocal that I'm ready to serve as the president of the ANC. Even yesterday, I was in the Northwest, in Vryburg, in the Roodmond-Party region, where the structures of the organization were also talking about the same thing. But what also pleased me, even the institution of traditional leadership were there in their numbers, led by Hosihulu Makurwane, indicating their intention to nominate me. So it was not for the first time. In the Lower South Coast, in KwaZulu-Natal, same sentiment was expressed as it was in Tshwane, as well as in Midvaal, just to mention a few.
We've got quite several people that are contesting the position. Do you think you stand a chance?
Well, the structures of the organization are the ones that are the final arbiters. As you know, the National Conference is basically a conference of the branches of the ANC. So they're the ones who are going to determine the leadership collective of the ANC in December of this year.
But what distinguishes you, Minister, from all the other people that are contesting for the position of ANC president?
Well, I cannot talk about other comrades, my colleagues, who are also in the running for the presidency of the ANC. But I can say, as you have seen from my own shortened CV, I've been into this organization since I was in my teens in terms of the struggle. I'm the head of the policy of the ANC since 1997. All the major policy documents that come from the ANC, I coordinate all those matters, as well as in government, the experience that I've had since 1994, starting with public works, followed by public enterprises, transport, and a short stint as acting Minister of Health, and now in the presidency for planning, monitoring, and evaluation. I do have that political background. I have the experience in government. I believe that we can, as a leadership collective, take this organization and the country into the next level of ensuring that we grow the South African economy.
And the people that nominate you, what would you say are going to be some of your priorities? Should you be elected ANC president, what are you going to do to fix the ANC? Because leaders have admitted that it needs some fixing.
Well, the most important thing I always tell my comrades and colleagues is that the subjective factor is very important. That is the ANC, which is the vehicle of national liberation, and now a vehicle for the total emancipation of our people from the economic strangulation that our people are still suffering from. So the issue of the economy is of critical importance. So that paradigm shift in the organization is necessary, that the basic unit of the organization, the ANC, must be talking about development, must be talking about how we can be able to ensure that we retard unemployment, inequality, and poverty. So that's the principal task. But also importantly, that we need to focus on young people, because young people are the future of this country. It depends on what they do today will determine what happens in the future. As you all know, that unemployment is very rife at the moment, with about 27.7%, as the state South Africa has indicated. And the brunt of that unemployment is being borne by young people of this country. So we need to give them education and skills, but skills that are required by the industry. So the combination of all these matters, I believe, will change the paradigm shift in the organization so that we chart a way forward, a brighter future for the people of South Africa.
Okay. And what about the ANC? What is it that you focus on in the ANC that will bring about its integrity and that will be able to win back the support of perhaps even some of its loyal supporters that have decided to stay away, particularly even to the elections?
That is why we need to correct all these basic problems of factions, the problems of people not listening to what the people are saying. You recall also that in the local government elections, where we lost many metros, not because the people do not want to vote for the ANC, but they stay away from the votes, because some amongst us in the ANC, when branches of the ANC have endorsed a particular candidate and also being endorsed by the communities, then they change and put the people of their liking. So these simple things are the ones that are costing the votes for the organization. We need to correct the source of the problem so that we have a good organization, a vibrant machinery to champion the cause of our people.
Do you agree with some others that are saying one of the problems the ANC is facing is this phenomena of taking collective responsibility? And I remember there's many times when the ANC has decided to do this bid on the Nkandla bid on the local government elections. Do you agree that it's another thing that has cost unhappiness amongst ANC members?
Well, the ANC is governed by its own constitution. So even we also take collective responsibility, but there's also individual responsibility. So it depends on the structures of the organization to put those that are out of line with the organization through Rule 25 of the organization, which we have not wavered to execute. I chair the National Disciplinary Committee of Appeals. So there have been many cases that come before us, not many, but other structures of the organization, be it the NDC and also provincial DC, have not hesitated to act against members who are transgressing Rule 25.
Do you feel there are some leaders in the ANC that are perhaps even transgressing that act, but are also bringing the image of the party to disrepute, that are not being held accountable?
Well, as far as I'm aware, there are many comrades have been held accountable in the organization. As we speak right now, we know about the case of Makosi Khoza. I do not know how it has panned out, but this is an example of action that is being taken by the organization. There are many others in the provinces, in Ngushwa, in the Eastern Cape, in KwaZulu-Natal. All those have been taken through disciplinary processes of the ANC, which I believe is very fair in adjudicating the matters that affect members of the ANC.
Yeah, well, other people might also argue that, well, it seems the disciplinary processes are happening at local and provincial level, and people may raise that, well, you've got the Nkandla Constitutional Court judgment against the president, no action was taken. You have other issues that have arisen that involve President Jacob Zuma, and people may argue that he is not being held accountable.
Well, as I've said, the structures of the ANC are the ones that determine all those matters of bringing people to book. So the PECs, the BECs, the RECs, as well as the NEC, all those matters have been ventilated and collective decisions have been taken. That's where the matter rests.
I want to bring you to what the Secretary General said last week. I mean, I was reading from somewhere that, in fact, a few weeks ago in KwaZulu-Natal, you said the fact that there's so many people that are contesting the position of ANC president shows that there's democracy in the party. But the Secretary General seems to believe that it's quote-unquote abnormal and ridiculous, because he says, well, these people know each other's qualities, and he doesn't see the need for the ANC to have so many presidential hopefuls, people that are vying for that position. Do you disagree with this? Because youth seems to be taking a stance that, well, it shows that there's democracy at work.
Well, the position of the ANC is very clear, that we are guided by the constitution of the ANC. Let branches express their view. So I don't think it is appropriate for me to say that when comrades are making themselves available after being approached by structures of the organization. That's why my principal point that I made when we started this interview, that a national conference is basically the branches of the ANC. And the National Executive Committee is very conscious of that fact. That is why we have even moderated the manner in which branches nominate leaders. You recall that previously it would be the provinces that consolidate all these nominations into a provincial position. Right now, what is being encouraged is that branches must nominate, and that nomination goes directly to the Electoral Commission to ensure that the real will of the branches, ordinary members of the ANC, must be felt. So that is my view on this matter, to reflect the real democracy that the ANC stands for.
What is your take on, how to say, smear campaigns? I mean, we've seen what's been happening, especially over the last a week ago, a newspaper, a report in the Sunday Independent involving the deputy president about his alleged extramarital affairs. And the argument that has come out of that story is the issue of smear campaigns. He claims that state resources are being used to tarnish his image. Do you think we are living in the pre-Polokwane days, because similar things happened where state institutions were allegedly used to fight political battles? Do you think that we've returned to that point now?
Well, I do not have information or evidence to substantiate that. But if that is the case, it will be incorrect to use state institutions to fight political battles within the organization. So I believe that, as I've always indicated, that what is important is what the branches of the organization feel about individuals and leaders of the organization. That's the point that we need to take to heart in terms of how we move forward as this liberation movement, which is also a governing party in South Africa.
But do you think there's this game of playing, as the Secretary General calls it, dirty tricks, where you would even have the personal lives of other presidential hopefuls scrutinized, so that there will be perhaps ammunition to act against them, even make reports? And I'm giving an example now with the issue of the deputy president. Are there dirty tricks happening now in the ANC, or do you think it's a fair game?
Well, if they're dirty tricks, they have to be condemned with the conduct that they deserve. I believe that the slate must be clean, so that our organization must be able to view whoever is making themselves available for leadership of the organization, be it president or SG or ordinary members of the NEC. So their history must be taken into account.